All right, hey Bobcats, this is Mrs. Kelly. As promised, we're going to go over corrections for your real numbers test. At this point, everybody should have gone in and completed that test. This is for you to correct it if you've made below the grade your teacher wanted you to make. Make sure to listen to Miss Colvin, Miss Lecky, and my instructions on our Canvas page. You can see how I've got myself started. I've got my name at the top, my period number, and the teacher. And I've labeled real numbers test, and these are my corrections. It's on a piece of notebook paper. You can also do it in your math journal or your math binder, that's fine, but it does need to be on its own piece of paper. So number 1 says numbers that can change to fraction form are rational. Okay, so for questions like number 1, it's hard to show your work, so I've just rewritten that definition. Rational numbers, they can be expressed in fraction form. Now I'm going to act like I've missed all of these questions just to model what you should have written down. Number 2, so we've got negative 19, negative 5, negative 57, negative 24, and negative 101. Are these integers or natural numbers? These are integers. And here we can say integers are, right, and this was my answer, so I'm going to box that in, right, rational. Integers is my answer, so I'm going to box that in. Integers are the whole numbers and their opposites. All right, moving right along to number 3. Okay, pi. Pi is what kind of number? Okay, if we typed pi into the calculator, it'd be like 3.14, blah, 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 and it would keep going. Okay, there's no pattern, so this would be irrational. Remember, irrational, the decimal goes on forever and there is no pattern. So here I'm going to write no pattern, infinite decimal. Okay, number 4. All right, the square root of 57. What does the square root of 57 equal? And that will help us decide if it's rational or irrational. So the square root of 57 is 7.549834, blah, 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 blah. Do you see a pattern? I don't. So this tells me this is irrational. Also, isn't this an imperfect square? And all imperfect squares, and I'm going to write the decimal here, 7.498, blah, blah, blah. Okay, meaning it goes on. And again, no pattern. Infinite decimal. This is irrational, just like pi. And if you needed to know the value of pi, you would come here and remember 3.14159, no pattern. No pattern, and it goes on forever. Okay, that was 3 and 4. Number 5, it says the negative square root of 100. What kind of number is that? Is that irrational or rational? Okay, so the negative square root of 100, isn't that a perfect square? Throwing you a curveball with that negative in front of it. Let's try it out. Negative the square root of 100. I'm getting negative 10. So see how that's an integer? It's a nice, pretty whole number in its opposite, so we're going to say that is rational. This number, negative 10, can be expressed as a fraction. Negative 10 over 1. Moving on to number 6. Now number 6 asks us to place these numbers in ascending order. All right, so I'm going to take these 4 numbers and I'm going to place them in ascending, which is least to greatest. And those numbers for number 6 are 34%, 0.45, 1/3, and 2/5. We're going to take all of these and put them in to decimals. So we'll start with that 34%. And I get 0.34. 0.45 has been done for me. 1/3. Now this is a repeating decimal, but it's rational because you see that pattern. So I'm going to say this is approximately 33 cents, but I do know those 3's go on forever, right? And then 2/5, so control divide, 2/5 is 0.4. So that's like 40 cents. So the least amount of money here is 33 cents, which should be 1/3. The next least amount of money is 34%. The next least amount of money is 2/5. And that means the greatest amount would be 0.45. So the work you're showing is all of these numbers, right? And they're decimal form, so you can think about money or however you think about it. Maybe you think about it on the number line. You can order those from least to greatest. Okay? So we've got 1 through 6 there, and remember you're doing the ones that you missed, but I'm pretending like I've missed them all to kind of model what you should be doing. So number 7, again, in ascending order. That's least to greatest. So we've got -0.8, -7/8, 0, and then negative square root of 1. Okay, so negative 80 cents has been done for us. Let's see what 7/8 is. That's 0.875. So if I was putting this into money, this would be approximately 88 cents. I'm going to put that wiggle there since that's the approximation equal sign. So 88 cents. And then 0, right? Wouldn't that just be 0? And then the negative square root of 1, which is -1. So -$1. And let me do this. Ooh, I left something out, right? Isn't that negative? Okay, so negative, -0, negative. Okay, so remember, the least amount of money is the one that's furthest from 0. So the negatives are kind of opposite of what you think. So the least is -1, because that's the furthest from 0. The next would be -7/8. Then it would be -0.8. Then it would be 0. 0 is your greatest number. These are all negative. Okay. Moving on to number 8. Now we're placing in descending order. So that's greatest to least. So I have 3.42, 12/3, 38%, and pi. Okay, so 3.42 is done for me. 12 divided by 3, if you needed to, you could come over here, but I know 12 divided by 3 is 4. 38% is 0.38, and again, modeling that over here, let's get rid of that glare. (12/3), 4, 38, whoopsie, 38%, 0.38, and then pi. Pi will approximate to 3.14, $3.14. So what's my greatest amount of money? My greatest amount of money is $4, so that would be 12/3. Then it would be 3.42, thinking about money. then it would be pi, then it would be 38%. Moving on to number 9. At any point, if I'm moving too fast, you pause that video. So again, descending, which is greatest to least. So 175, 1 7/10, 1 whole, and 66%. So 175% is 1.75. 1 plus control divide 7/10 is $1.70. This is $1. 66% is gonna be 0.66. So my greatest amount of money is $1.75, which is 175%. Then it's 1 7/10. Then it's $1. Then it is 66%. Moving on to number 10. Number 10 is asking for ascending order. So that's least to greatest. So we have 0.75, it's negative, negative 1, negative 7/8, and negative 4/5. So negative 0.75, negative $1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 0 there. All right, 7/8. So control divide 7/8. I'm getting about 88 cents. So negative 88 cents. And then 4/5 is 80 cents. And that's a negative, right? So remember, the least is the furthest away from 0, which would be 1. Then it would be negative, forgot that negative, negative 7/8. Then it would be negative 4/5. Then it would be negative 0.75. Thinking about money, putting those in order. Okay, let's move along to number 11. Number 11 was a word problem, all right, about bobcats. I'm going to fold my paper here. And remember, you just pause, okay? So number 11, we've got Noah, Jaren, Jack, and then we've got Drew. All right, Noah was 5 out of 6. Jaren was 80%. Jack was 8/9, and Drew was 0.9. So we're going to put all of these in decimal form, because what's going on, we've got 4 players that are trying out for quarterback. These are their completed passes. Which one had the most completed passes? So we're looking for the greatest value. So we'll go ahead and say 5/6. That's going to be approximately 83 cents. We've got 80%. That's going to be 0.8 or 80 cents. We've got 8/9 as 0.88 repeating or 89 cents. And we'll say approximately. That's just because I am rounding, and then 0.9's been done for me. All right, so who is the player with the greatest amount? And that would be Drew. Okay, with that 0.9. Okay, moving right along to number 11. So I've got my first 2 pages done, except I didn't mean to say 11, I meant to say 12. All right, so we've got these art students or these theater students. They've measured the stage. Here are 3 measurements. We want them least to greatest. So we've got 5 times the square root of 67, 40 and 9/10, and 40.5. 5. So 5 times the square root of 67 is 40.926, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to write that down, 40.9, I'm going to round to 0.93, okay? This would be 40.9. If you don't know how to do that, you would say whole number plus the fraction of 9 over 10, control enter, there's $40.90. And this one's been done for you, 40.5. So the least would be 40.5, right? Then it would be 40.9. Then it would be 5 times the square root of 67, and that leaves A as my answer. Okay, number 13 and number 14. So number 13 says Christy is completing her science project. It estimates the Earth's circumference at 131,480,000. So here's my decimal, and I know that I have to move the decimal, so there's only one number, right, in front of the decimal. So I'm going to move it in between the 1 and the 3. So I'm moving that decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm multiplying by a power of 10, and I'm doing that 8 times. So my answer is B. Okay? Moving on to number 14. 14, we've got a diameter of a piece of sand, and we're putting that into the correct scientific notation. So I've got to move the decimal, so there's only one number in front of the decimal, and remember it can't be a 0. So I'm moving 1, 2, 3 times. So this would be 6.25 times 10 to the negative 3. And that would be letter D. So also, what I want to kind of point out is that you can type this in. Okay, you can do it for both. I'm going to do it for number 14. So I'm going to say it's 6.25 times 10 raised to the negative third. See how that gives me my original number? It's a great way to check. Okay, now the rest of the questions I've just pulled from Canvas. Okay, so number 15, it was a vocabulary question. Okay, number 15 said a rational number is, so we'll write rational number. Okay, it's a number that can be written as a fraction. It's a decimal that terminates or repeats. A whole number and its opposite, think the number line. Isn't that an integer? A number that starts with 0, isn't that whole? A number that cannot be written as a fraction, isn't that irrational? So what must be my answer? The first one. So I would actually just write this out. Okay, so I would say a number that can be written as a fraction. Okay, number 16. Number 16 is an irrational number. So this is a lot of vocabulary. Hopefully this kind of helped you get some good questions right. So an irrational number, remember this was rational. Ooh, let me move where you can see. This was rational. This was integer. This was whole. And this was irrational. So a number that cannot be written as a fraction. A number that cannot be written as a fraction. And then question number 17 is an integer, right? And integers are the whole numbers and its opposite. So you're going to write integer and you're going to write that out, okay? It's a whole number and its opposite. Okay, question 18. Question 18 is asking me what a whole number is. Okay, so remember, a whole number is a number that starts at 0. So 18, a whole number, is a number that starts, it's really a set, right, of numbers that start with 0, 1, 2, and so on. Okay, which gives me 0 belongs to what set of numbers? So 19. 0, is it rational and integer? Is it irrational and integer? Y'all, it's not irrational. I'll get rid of that. Is it rational and a whole? Or is it rational and integer and a whole? This is it. Okay, so you would write 0 belongs to rational, integer, and whole sets. Okay? Very last one's easy. Who's your favorite teacher? So if you have Miss Colvin, guess what? It should be Miss Colvin. If you have Miss Lucky, guess what? It should be Miss Lucky. If you have Miss Kelly, it should be Miss Kelly. Okay? All right. Now, what do you do with these? Okay, so I've got my test. Look at how neat my work is. It's so easy for me to say what's my answer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go make sure all of my answers are boxed in. And here I would box in these right here. All right, just that front part, definition. What you're going to do now is you're going to take pictures. All right, take a clean, pretty picture. If we can't read it, it doesn't count. Okay, take pictures and send these through Canvas. If you have Miss Colvin, you're going to send them to Miss Colvin. If you have me, you send it to me. And if you have Miss Lucky, you send it to Miss Lucky. Hope you'll have a great Friday and a great weekend.